Hello and welcome to the Money Marketing Podcast, live from London at the Dynamic Planner offices, I suppose. Thank you for having us. So today we're going to talk about the budget, but before we start that, I will let everyone introduce themselves. So Chris, you want to start?
Yeah, so I'm Chris Jones. I suppose I'm the host today, which is unusual. I'm a financial director at Dynamic Planner.
I'm Tom Browne. I'm editor of Money Marketing.
And I'm Dan Cooper, news editor at Money Marketing.
And I'm Kimberley Dondo. I seem to keep forgetting to introduce myself in these podcasts now. I don't know.
You go without saying, Kim, obviously.
Yeah, I'm just like everyone else. But yes, we're talking about the budget, which I guess top of line, we should talk about the fact that it leaked.
I know.
Yeah.
It was just incredible. I mean, when you thought of months and months and months of speculation and all of the hoo-ha beforehand, you thought things couldn't get any more shambolic. And then, the OBR accidentally published the entire contents of the budget as effectively, a couple of hours beforehand.
Yeah.
Which meant that we were in a really unusual position of actually starting to write reaction pieces and copy before Rachel Reeves even stood up to say anything.
Which I thought personally, for journalists or anyone within the industry, they probably were excited and happy about.
I think it was good for journalists, bad for the government's credibility, even though obviously it was the OBR's screw up, as they have owned, and as Rachel Reeves very emphatically pointed out.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory, and there's
I love conspiracy theory.
Here it comes.
Well, there is, obviously, a lot of the leaks and things were around the challenges that the Labour government faced, and some of the challenges are the fact that they are boxed in by the OBR, and the OBR could arguably be one of the most powerful organisations within the economy. So, what if Labour didn't want to have the OBR going forward so much, maybe it serves their purposes because
undermined its credibility.
Yeah.
It was a creation of George Osborne, wasn't it? The previous Tory Chancellor. Yeah. So I suppose Labour don't necessarily feel any great loyalty to it. But interesting, Chris. I'll ponder that one.
Definitely.
I don't know, because it seems like it's also a blowback on Labour. The people are attacking them as opposed to the OBR initially.
I think it certainly distracted, attention away from sort of the actual contents of the budget. Yeah. But then maybe Rachel Reeves wanted that as well. I mean, who knows?
Who knows? That poor intern that did that, though.
Whoever it was is
in my mind is an intern who's just like, oh my God, I'm never working again. But Chris, for you, what were the biggest standouts in today's budget?
Yeah, I suppose the biggest talking point is the fact that this has been so leaked, so spoken about. And then for that to be probably what everyone was thinking about yesterday, and then for the leak to come out, it's we're having this podcast now, and we've done it before where we've been digging out minutiae of interesting things to talk about. This is now a news story which actually is probably going to affect people who wouldn't normally pay attention to the budget, and everyone's going to be talking about this and the way it's been handled, all the leaks. Perhaps more than they are talking about the details. I think the biggest thing is what impact has this whole period of leaks and instability had on the public, on advisors and industry, where the major investment decisions and queries and things have been happening because of things that were being leaked, which actually didn't happen at all. And I think that's the big talking point. Is that sort of instability of the whole thing is a big worry generally for everybody, I think.
I suppose the tax-free cash is a prime example of that. It's some clients would have made irreversible financial decisions even against the wishes of their advisor. Months of speculation is just ruined some people's finances.
Yeah.
And the months of speculation is the crucial point as well, because we were having exactly the same conversations last year after an historically big gap between the election and the Chancellor's first budget. This time round, obviously, it's the 26th of November. We've had an extra month of speculation this time round. And if anything, there's more speculation this time round than there was last year, largely because there was probably less of a consensus on what exactly the government could do to sort of try and square the circle of all the various different things it wants to achieve. So yeah, the speculation and the leaks, as you say, Chris, is certainly the big story around this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also the fact that by sticking to manifesto pledges,
Yeah.
It kind of rules out 70%. If you're not putting up national insurance, you're not putting up income tax.
Mm-hmm.
You've got not much wiggle room.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that also played a part, because they're thinking, well, what if she's not going to touch those? Then what is she going to look at? And almost nothing was off the table in that respect.
Well, I think actually, I mean, on that point, we were chatting before the budget about the fact that this government had been so boxed in by these manifesto commitments, and unnecessarily so from their point of view, because at the end of the day, how many people are really interested enough in politics and in manifestos in particular that are going to, one way or another, care about a broken manifesto promise if the longer term consequences of breaking that promise is that you actually get growth moving, or you build up enough fiscal headroom or whatever it is. And all it's really done is box the government in. They haven't really had any great credit, I think, political credit for making those pledges, and they've shipped an awful lot of damage from those as well. And you could argue that if they were going to break one of those manifesto promises on direct taxation, they should have done it early on. They should have done it in Rachel Reeves' first budget, and then maybe we would have been in a better position now. But who knows? It's speculation.
Yeah.
And had you known that the story was going to be all about the leaks, you probably got away with a 1%, 2% tax rise, and nobody would have necessarily noticed.
Yeah.
But actually, I think, I mean, one of the headlines in this budget is obviously the extension of the freeze in income tax thresholds until 2031. So that's a 3-year extension rather than a 2, which had been sort of floated a bit beforehand, which is effectively a rise in direct tax. It's a very large stealth tax. The OBR in this leaked document that you referenced, Chris, suggests that's going to raise another 8.2 billion. And, so you can say that she allowed, all of this rumour to build up as a will she raise income tax or not, or what have you. But, essentially she has, this is a stealth tax, you could argue, and you can argue that it's on working people as well.
Yeah.
And also when Badenoch came back with her rebuttal, I didn't realise at the time that Reeves apparently did promise last year not to extend the frozen.
She said she had no plans to extend the freeze beyond what the previous government had pledged. So that's. I mean, it's not a break necessarily in a manifesto pledge, but it is certainly a reversal of what she said in the previous budget. So,
I'm going to go back to the instability bit as well, because you are going to have people after this budget reading the Daily Mail or whatever they do and realising that they may have made a decision, or they may have been advised to make a decision before the budget, which actually wasn't necessary. And you say it may not be something that's not necessary in their best interest. But I think the important thing to remember, whether you're making a decision for yourself or on behalf of somebody else, is that you can't second guess these things. So, I think people need to be quite forgiving on themselves for making any decision that they've made, and also forgiving on their advisor. If the advisor's making a recommendation based on what he knows or she knows to be true in the moment, then if it keeps changing, it's hardly fair for our industry to be penalised, perhaps in compensation or negative press, when the rules are changing. Whether it's IHT or mentions, or what the next thing is going to be. And I think we just need to be, make sure that we are obviously as a journalist team or as a commentator, gentle on anyone who did make a decision in good faith.
Yeah, just gentle parent them.
After
the fact.
It's not my style at all.
No, but with the cash ISA allowance cut, do you think that it will actually promote more people to go towards the stocks and shares ISA route? I mean, I've been doing them using a stocks and shares ISA, but that was just because I'm a chronically online girl. So I saw Moneybox and started when it came out, and it just sounded interesting. But other individuals? Would that attract them to
Yeah,
it?
look, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because she dressed it up as retaining the £20,000 limit, but with a caveat, as you say, that at least £8,000 has to go into investments. I don't know if whether railroading is the right term, but railroading people, almost forcing them to invest. And we look at the nation now, and we're really short on cash savings. Those emergency savings, that safety net, people aren't saving enough money. So I don't know, cutting allowance. I don't think
struggle to hit that 20k in the first place.
Well, I think I don't know. I think it's a moot point as to whether or not you boost. You promote an investment in culture by restricting choice.
Yeah,
and a lot of the people, the behavioural people that I've talked to, say that there's nothing to say necessarily if you cut the cash ISA amount, that stuff, the excess money will automatically go into stocks and shares ISAs or investments and stuff like that. And not unless there's, a bit, an improvement on sort of like financial education more broadly, because a lot of people look at investments as very, very risky. They think it's gambling. They are put off by doing that, whereas they see cash as something that is real and tangible and, and safer. Whether they're right to think that or not, that is quite often what it is. So I'm not convinced it's going to, in and of itself, promote a sort of investment culture. I don't know what you think, Chris.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is that I want to enjoy this milkshake without paying a sugar tax.
We've got our milkshakes before it all goes up.
Are we going to buy a milkshake tomorrow?
Maybe not.
And
I'm certainly not buying this one.
No,
that might be the last one for a while.
But I think that actually...
But that's the low sugar one.
Yeah,
well, it certainly doesn't taste like a low sugar one. It's disgusting. Anyway, carry on.
But yes, but the point is, if you want a milkshake, you want a milkshake.
Yes.
Right? And I'm still going to have one. And you look at the price and you do two different shops and the different prices, whatever. So if you wanted to go to an high street and buy a milkshake, or if you want to go to a high street and find a savings account, you walk in and you what's the rates, and the ISA rate is one thing and the non-ISA rate the other, and you just happen to get an ISA. I don't think many people ever have gone and bought and thought, I need to buy ISA, shall I go cash or shall I go investment? I think actually normally it's cash first, and anyone that is buying into the ISA tax allowance itself is normally going in like you are, going into an investment one. And the flip side, of course, is yes, we need money to go into the markets to fund UK development and UK stocks and shares, not funding the big 7 American companies that employ so many people and all that kind of stuff. But if you put money into a cash ISA in beyond the side, yes, there's wholesale markets, but that is then actually contributing to the ability to lend. And actually, what if you're borrowing money to start a business to employ some people as well? So it's a little bit counterintuitive. I think there's a sort of a generic idea that it's going to help, but it's mainly going to help maybe the asset managing industry that might have more AUM, but I don't think it will.
Just because I haven't had a chance to look through 100 odd pages of
God, what are you
I know. What have I been doing?
Even with the leak, come on.
I know. I have an extra half an hour. So. What is there any suggestion of what of that £8,000 in investments? How much of that will actually go into UK equities?
So at the moment, we can answer this question in two parts. At the moment, we know that the UK is the least. They say we are got home bias, but actually look at the stats. We haven't got a home bias compared to continental countries who don't have a developed stock market, and certainly not compared to the US. So most of that money is at the moment, for whatever reason, is going into US large cap and is going into global. And yes, there is a home bias, and there should be, but not as much as there is in other countries. So I don't think there is a direct connection to that at all. Obviously, there are other measures coming. So if, having done that, there's greater incentives and something else happens with private assets or whatever it might be to try, and the other measures that are going on in the background we're all aware of, which make it better for you to invest in UK small cap. UK large cap is a listing question. Like Compass and Tesco's employ loads of people, but that's not everyone is listed in the top one. So that connection is theoretical, really, isn't it? And it needs to be part of a coordinated Mansion House type, post Brexit type, growth mindset type of strategy.
Also, how does it match up with the dividend tax rise? I mean, this is probably something you can speak to a little bit more, Chris, but it seems to me that, I mean, from what the commentary I've seen so far on this is that it's going to be, that's going to undermine investment in UK equity. So if you have higher taxes on dividends outside of ISAs and SIPs, you do not risk pushing investors away from the UK market altogether.
Potentially, that was my second point. I forgot.
Sorry.
Thank you but yeah, so I think that is an interesting one. I think where it matters actually is if I was going to start up a new business and I wanted to decide where it was, and it's predominantly global, and I was rich enough to expect a £2 million house, right? Then I'm going to say, hang on a minute, I'm going to now pay more tax on my dividends in the UK. I'm going to pay tax on my house. Maybe Southern Ireland is a better option. Maybe Portugal, Spain, are better options. And I think that's the issue. Is obviously people. Yes, you want startup and scaling up companies, but if the individual that's creating that entrepreneur creating has got a choice of where they are, that choice is different. I think when it comes to the actual equity markets, for a long time now, there's been a heavy bias towards growth stock. So basically low distributing stocks.
Yeah.
And that hasn't gone away. It's closed a bit. I mean, we know that the value stocks have done a lot better recently to close the gap on growth stocks. We can see that people are questioning, at what point does the valuation become completely mental if there's no actual revenues? That's all going on. That's a much bigger question. The dividend and taxation part of that, will it turn the dial? Not what you see. I think it'd be more about thinking, do I need a company that's got profits I can see?
Yeah.
Or does a company that has got hope I can see? And that's a bigger decision than whether you pay tax on the distributions.
I think another thing that stood out to me in this budget was the mansion levy. I think it probably has more to do with our sister magazine, Mortgage Strategy. But I was just thinking the whole time, oh my God, if I were to win that Omaze house in Cornwall,
I know.
Now I'm stuck with £7,000 in council tax.
Yeah. You can just flip it, I suppose, if you want it.
But I personally think the reason why they're on this raffle is because they can't sell the house in the first place, so they know they can make more of a profit this way. But
anyway,
could that mean for financial advisors potentially, could they see their more maybe cash poor clients who own houses that are quite high, have quite high rating? Could this mean that they move towards equity release products to specifically pay for this tax?
That's what I was going to say. That actually, when I was listening to you, I thought some people are just going to be forced into either taking larger withdrawals from their pension, which is going to run out of money sooner, or doing equity release or finding it one place or another. My old house before this one actually was technically two houses. That's why I had two doors. A lot of houses, sort of cottages. I'll see how much it costs in stamp duty to switch that over to two houses. But no, I think that's that's the thing, isn't it? It's a lot of people who have expensive properties don't necessarily have a great lifestyle for that, that's a key point.
And also, it's been dubbed the mansion tax, but if you look at
what a house looks
how quickly
like when it's that.
House prices have been rising over the last 15, 20 years. You're looking at potentially a decent 3-4 bedroom house in London now.
Yeah.
It's probably not far off 2 million in certain areas. So it's not necessarily a wealthy kind of wealth tax anymore as such, because at the rate they've been rising, it's
and if it stays at 2 million. It doesn't go up with inflation like the income tax bands, and before you know it, everyone will have a £2 million house and will be paying £2.5 grand a year. But it's interesting what does the property market. It's potentially a double hit where if you have a property portfolio and you're not paying more tax on the rent, or you've got a sole purpose vehicle limited company and you've now paying more tax on the dividends, that has to go somewhere. Does it? Can you still afford to pay your mortgage? Mortgage rates are probably going up on it around about now. People had good deals, and then you pass it on to the tenant. So you start selling your buy-to-let properties slowly, and then somebody who's got a £2 million property thinks, I think now is the time to downsize. You start affecting the property market. then that's obviously always been a source of funding consumption, isn't it? So it starts to hit there.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know how much we've delved into the salary sacrifice.
Well, yes. I was chatting to Steve Webb about, I think it was about 4 months ago. It was over the summer, and he gave the nod to me about this, saying this could be something that's in Rachel Reeves' crosshairs. And I was a bit, salary sacrifice. Oh, okay. It seemed like quite small beer to me, but indeed it has come to pass. I mean, as I see, from what I've read, in the lead up to the budget, it's there is a sort of a risk that it could, at a time when sort of pension adequacy is sort of like already under threat, that this is been seen as a very effective tool for boosting contributions. And there have been surveys that suggest something like 25% of customers would stop salary sacrifice if tax benefits were reduced, and 90% would contribute less. So is that harmful for future retirees? If employers face higher cost and reduce flexibility, the actual thing is it's a £2,000 cap on national insurance relief for pension salary sacrifice, and it's not been getting good reviews basically for that reason.
Well, as you say, there's the employers and the pensions adequacy issue, but also on the flip side, the employers themselves. Some would have introduced salary sacrifice because of the national insurance hike in the last budget, and now they're being hit again. And I think I saw a statistic that came out earlier on that said that it could be the extra cost for employers could be £75 a year for someone, for every person earning 50k, or £450 for someone earning 100k. So you think some of these larger companies, it's quite a considerable.
It's like a considerable rise. It's like a lot of changes that Rachel Reeves has made. It's just finding sort of these revenue raising measures seem to directly contradict her desire to growth, which was the big headline before the last election. National insurance rises on employees was massively criticised for that reason, and it looks like this will be criticised in similar terms.
But Tom's right. You look at the impact that the national insurance rise had a year or so ago. You hear it all the time. It's companies sort of freezing their freezing recruitment and no pay rises and potential job losses, and then you've got some who've moved to the salary sacrifice model, and they're going to be hit again. It's the same issue.
Most important thing for us is I've got a team of people and actuaries that were just sitting there waiting to have to do a load of work if they had to put it into the dynamic plan of cash flow tomorrow. And then we thought, hang on a minute, at least we're not a payroll company. And so we're just relieved it's not till 2029, gives everyone plenty of time. That's not a problem. It also gives plenty of time for it to be washed through in the actual detail. So as I read it, it is only salary sacrifice. So that is where obviously you've exchanged letters which say, you're going to pay me 100 grand here, give me 80 and pop 20 into the into the pension. So if you have got auto enrollment and as an organisation you decide to put the salary up for a GPP, or that's one thing. What if the trust-based scheme? What if it's what if you decided to set up a SAS? What if you decided to leave the money in the company and set up a Hancock annuity and pay it and buy it at the end? There's loads of ways in which you can still get money for the benefit your employees without it being salary sacrifice. So I'm pretty sure that the pension technical teams around the country will be in the run up to 2020 making sure that there are maybe SASs and EPPs come back. Maybe you just as a company work out a package that is evidently not. I mean, if it was happening straight away and all of a sudden as a company you said, right, our current contributions are 5, we'll put them up to 10, then that might look a little bit suspicious. But you've got till 2029 to gently increase it. Everyone who wants to have salary sacrifice would effectively just not get a pay rise or get a lower pay rise and get a bigger pension contribution. So that's the tricky bit, which needs to be worked out before 2029.
So Chris, as an advisor, or if you were talking to an advisor, and they're reviewing their client's cash flow forecast tomorrow, which single line item do they need to make the biggest adjustment to their tax bill, pensions growth assumption, or their net income?
I think it's milkshake expenditure.
That's the most important
I think
one.
that's the key thing. So the good news is fundamentally there's no huge changes because the assumptions obviously are built in. We say how much of someone's growth comes from dividends. If you look at the markets, it's not a huge number. Obviously things like the basic rate pension, for example, where that they've got rid of the P60. I imagine how they're going to do it. Where it used to be, roughly speaking, depending on your tax code, you just about didn't pay tax, and you basically say that's been sorted out. So that makes it a bit easier for practical planning. But no, I mean, I think there isn't actually anything too crazy. Obviously, what you have got is you've got the uncertainty. So could you plan to say to somebody, this, you should have a pension, you should have an ISA, you should have a bond, you should have a GIA? You actually can't, because you don't know what taxation is going to be. Is dividend taxation going to go up? Are they going to take away the tax-free cash? So it does take us right back into that situation of not only do you need to have investment diversification, but you also need to have product and tax diversification. The platform guys must be quite happy. So you probably want to have a client's got a lot of money. Let's face it, a lot of people still won't pay tax on investments. Yeah, so those people, I guess, their point is right. Whatever numbers you said, 87% of people, whatever it was, that was a guess from one of those numbers that she said. So most of that's fine. Those are people who will or could pay tax on investments. Would probably want to have a bond, an ISA, GIA, and a pension, and basically mix it up a little bit. So when they come to take that money out, they can choose which one they take out. I mean, the idea, that you would, keep a pension until last because it's the IST free is gone. So, those tools become available to you. But to do some kind of long-term plan based on taxation would be very brave right now, because we're not entirely sure, what it's going to be one day, 1 week to next, let alone 1 year to next.
That is true. So before we end this, I wondered if there's anything that was speculated about ahead of the budget that you're surprised didn't come up at all.
It's difficult to remember now. There's so much speculation.
It
was.
I did wonder. Well, I wouldn't say I'm surprised this hasn't happened, but I did wonder whether Rachel Reeves would pull a rabbit out in terms of a U-turn on one of the sort of like the big taxes. I mean, maybe I didn't think about that today, but I did think about it at like a week or two ago, even after they'd killed the fox they'd sent running about the income tax rise, just because I sort of felt that she would get a lot of bad reviews for just piddling around the edges. People would just think, well, it's Reeves' budget 2.0, and it's just going to create more uncertainty. It's not going to sort of solve the issue of filling the fiscal hole on one hand, or be getting growth or confidence back in the economy on the other. We're going to kind of just be trudging along again. And I can't help feeling that's kind of what we've got with this budget. I thought maybe she might take a big political risk on something and really kind of go for it, and maybe like a big rise in VAT or something. I don't know. I thought there was a better than 50% chance that she might do something like that. But I can't say I'm surprised she hasn't done that. I'm surprised. I'm disappointed.
Well, politically, obviously, it was not a good thing for them to do, but they're not exactly popular in the polls at the moment. They're absolutely tanking. So you think, well, if you're going to be unpopular, be really unpopular, and
double down.
Say get the savings that way. And,
it does come back to the point we're making. It's unpopular with whom? I think if you did actually move the dial by doing something bold, then you would be more popular come the next election. People wouldn't care. People don't thank you for sticking by a manifesto commitment if it's the wrong commitment for the country. And Keir Starmer famously said before the last election, "I put country before party." So he could easily fall back on that line. Okay, I know this is going to make the party unpopular because we're breaking a manifesto problem, but I believe this is right for the country. Or Rachel Reeves could say that.
We have got the largest tax code in the world, and somebody's got the proper stats for this, which you can look it up. But it's something like we still said 3 times longer than the next person. So that's crazy. The whole thing needs to be tidied up. Some of the things that you said were just making it fair, equalising it. We're still fiddling around the edges. There was an opportunity to have one single tax rate, for example. There was an opportunity to just go to VAT only if you want to be really extreme.
Yeah.
But the one thing which was rumoured was 2 up, 2 down, and that was going after dividend income, savings income, put national insurance on dividend, savings, property tax, and Schedule D and LLPs. So there's going to be a lot of lawyers and accountants and professional people that earn a lot of money from an LLP or self-employed who are going to be very pleased that they're not actually getting hit by a 2% rise. So that was the one that I was expecting. So it's kind of like watered down. But of all the people that you see in ordinary life, old ladies with savings policies and people with maybe running a small limited company, and then your mate who's a partner in a large practice somewhere, he's the richest guy, isn't he? So you'd have thought they'd gone after them, but it's probably because they're busy advising all the government on it anyway. So that was a surprise for me.
Okay, so I guess I want to end this podcast with your feelings on the budget overall. Chris, do you want to start?
Like I say, it's just been fun, hasn't it? I mean, the amount of times we've had
one word.
I mean,
there's so much intrigue.
It's got very little to do with with what it should have been about, and it's all about a load of other things. Yeah. So, I mean, that is fun. It's going to be journalists beyond professional journalists like yourselves are going to have a great time over this, and it's going to go on probably till Christmas. But there were some important things that have happened, and the advisors are going to help their clients to work through it, and and will, it probably still is two types of people in the world: those that are getting advice and those that aren't.
Yeah,
and those that are getting advice are probably going to sail through this and probably get away with everything that she's added on.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I don't think there's anything to sort of frighten the horses for advised clients or anything like that. I think in terms of the broader picture of like, what do I feel about the budget? I just feel quite sort of meh. I just think the problem with it is I don't think it will change the perception at all of this government or of Rachel Reeves or of Keir Starmer, and I don't think it will move the dial sort of like in any meaningful way when it comes to the sort of fiscal hole this country's in. We should say that another thing that was in that leaked OBR report was the fact that the growth forecasts have been downgraded. It's slight upgrade for 2020-25, sort of up to 1.5%. But from 2026 to 2029, it's all downgraded with the growth rates between sort of 1.4% and 1.6%. And that suggests a sort of weaker economic momentum just as these tax pressures are sort of rising. So this whole growth agenda that, they basically have pinned their political reputation on. Where are we going to be by the time the next election comes around? I just don't think it's good news for them. And I don't see any great sort of positive news, economic news for the country. Sorry.
I'm not going to add any positive news to that, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
No, as Tom said, no huge surprises, no massive rabbit out of a hat, but it's not a good budget, and we didn't think it was going to be a good budget. It's not a growth budget, in my opinion, and it's certainly, I don't think it's changed any opinion of Labour. And from a personal point of view, now it means I have to pay more for milkshakes, and I can't gamble online anymore.
Yeah.
Not that I'm very good at it anyway. But.
Hey, no, but that one I'm actually for, because I recently was watching something about online gambling and crypto and how insidious it is, especially for young kids. And I think that's potentially why. So I'm okay with that.
Just ruin my football accumulators now. That's fine.
Sorry. No, you can still go to Betfred or whatever. I know. Go to your local bookies, and that's fine.
This podcast was sponsored by Betfred.
I
didn't give a particular bookie just for that reason.
Other bookies are available.
I'm gonna send that clip to them and see if they'll give us a sponsor. But yeah, this was great talking to you guys. I'm leaning into absurdism. I think that's just the way to cope with life at the moment. I was feeling nihilistic last year, but this year absurdism. I'll let you know next year what philosophy I'm following. But thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for having us here.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
But yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yeah,
soon.
Thank you.